All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to talk to Jean tonight. We've known each other for a while. I don't even remember how we connected, and then you send me that lovely fiber
Oh,
and
because I just need to get my hands in things and wanted to be a volunteer and
right,
what it was the coolest thing in the world. And so
right.
I'm just I'm just a groupie.
All right. So I want you to tell kind of your business story, but I want you to make sure that I'm really interested in knowing how you came to fiber in the first place.
Okay, can I start with that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I don't know, does needlepoint count as fiber?
Of course it does.
So my grandma was a supreme needle pointer. Is that the right right word? I mean, like sometimes she even did the petty point, the really, really tiny. She was fantastic. And so I probably learned how to needle. I'm gonna call it needle felt now instead of needle point. I probably learned when I was about 5. And then she had a friend who would crochet and she tried to teach me that did that did not stick. But needlepoint I did for a long time with her. But I really could not stand the fact that you had to do row after row of the same color for the background. And so then I learned there was this thing called cross stitch where you could do your pattern and your design, but you just let the cloth be the background. You didn't always have to fill it in. So I switched. And I did that through middle school, some in high school. I would make things for my aunts for Christmas, sometimes finishing the projects in the car on the way to the house on Christmas Eve or whatnot. Um, but then when I went to college and started my work world, I didn't really do a whole lot of that until lockdown. And I thought, well, that was the perfect thing for my best friend. And like it had all the different elements of it were exactly her. So I started working on that and I turned it into a game where I would take pictures of each day's progress where you couldn't really tell what it was. And then I had friends who would try to guess. And they wanted to guess like they were looking at the cloud. Like they didn't want to really guess
Right.
what this was, except one friend. And so, it took me about 8 months or so to make this thing. And it was fantastic. My friend loved it. And then I thought, well, what do I do now? I said, so should I do another one or try a new craft? Try a new craft. And for Christmas, I think the year before, maybe I got a little tiny little, they were cactus. That's why I say cactus. This little tiny needle felt kit where you make a cactus like this big. So I started doing that. That's kind of fun. So I bought another kit. That's kind of fun. So I bought my friend a kit. And then we started doing over Google Meet, we would do craft hour together because she lives in Missouri and I live in Oregon. And so we would do needle felt. So we thought that was fun. Well, now we got to do something else. We got to learn how to do something else. And so we started doing Easter eggs. So then I went on YouTube to find Easter egg tutorials and I found the one from Karen of Lion Gate Farm. And I was like, oh, because she was pretty new at doing these tutorials. And I said, oh, my friend and I are going to do it this weekend. And then I went to show her a picture, and you can't add a picture in a comment in YouTube. So I found her on Facebook and I messaged her and I showed her the picture. And then she told me she lives in Oregon. I was like, oh, cool. So then we became friends on Facebook Messenger. And then she told me about the Fiber Festival. There's two big fiber festivals in Oregon, and she was going to it. And is only about an hour and 20 minutes south of me. So I said, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go meet Karen from YouTube. So, but in the meantime, I saw on her Facebook that she had a farm sale or something. It's like, okay, I'll watch that. So it was the Karen and Ellie show. It was one of the times when they were like at 5:30 on Friday. So they were full of their funniness. And I was like, oh, there's more of these? So then I started, I was watching. I was hooked. I was hooked. Not just for the sales. I just started hanging out in the community group. And I would watch Erica's weekly bat demo. I would watch Carla's demo. I joined the community group for Dunspun. I just started, I really was a groupie for watching everything. In the meantime, when I went to the festival to meet Karen, I decided I was going to take a workshop, and I did a blending board workshop.
Oh,
And
that was it.
so then I got a blending board. And so my friend and I, we were going to make, I mean, I was never going to have a business, we're just playing. And we are going to make, all the pretty blends that you can find online for sale. We were going to make them, and we were going to call them glass jar blends, because we were going to put them in a glass jar as decoration, because neither one of us spin. What were we going to do with it?
Right.
So let's just say my friend has a lot of decorations of wool in her house right now. I didn't really decorate mine. I was like, well, what am I gonna do with this? It just kept piling up. And then in another fiber group on Facebook, this gal had posted saying, oh, I found this bat that would be the perfect bat for me to use to spin to make my dad a hat. And it's sold out, and I need to find something like it. Well, I was brand new to this group, so I hadn't been approved to be able to respond, but I responded. It just didn't post right away. It was Kiana of Yarns from Vet School who had asked this question. And what I said was, I just got a blending board. I'd love to try to make it for you. I didn't know what I was doing. And so she responded, yes, that would be great. Okay. And so that was how Kiana and I met. And so I made her 10 different blends on my blending board, just changing them just a little bit. What I would send her pictures of the colors of what I had. And and then she spun it up each one and picked. They were only like quarter ounce each, it wasn't like I made her 10 huge, because I was using
Right.
my blending board,
Right.
and she loved it. So I made her enough for her to make a hat. And then she was still not super new, but pretty new. She liked to spin tiny bats, tiny things, because she's in vet school, and she didn't have a lot of time and a lot of attention, because she used it for stress relief. And
Right.
so she liked to spin these little tiny, tiny things. Well, that was perfect, because I was making tiny things. So I would just make stuff, and I would send it to her, and she would spin it, and she would tell me how it worked, because I was just using random stuff.
In the form of Rologs at that point.
Well, yeah, no, she liked the
Like bats.
bats at the time.
Okay.
So they were tiny, like,
You're pulling them off as little bats off of the
yeah,
blending board. Okay.
they're like half an ounce.
Mhm.
So and she loved that. And so sometimes I would just do a pattern. Like, I wanted it to look like a fish. So I'd lay it down like a picture of a fish, so the fibers going every which way, and I'd pull it off and I'd send it to her, and she'd spin it. And then I'd learn what kinds of ways maybe didn't work so well. And then I tried out Rolex and started sending those to her, and she said she loved it. It's like, okay. And then in the meantime, I'd met some other people from WAFA who lived in Oregon, on the Oregon coast. And so I got to meet them at the festival. And Donna, she said, well, bring some of your Rolex and I'll spin them for you right there. Okay. So I did. And so then I just started giving people things, because it was fun. But everything I made had to have a pattern, because not an artist, my background is engineering. And so, when I was young, I played the piano, but I couldn't tell you what note was going. It was because the sheet music was my program.
Right.
And so the way I did my blends, I was programming them, this is a watermelon. The watermelon has these colors on the outside, and then there's the little white, and then there's, the little bit of pink, and it changes, and the seeds are here, but not here. So that's how, and so but I didn't know anything about the fiber. So I'm just picking things that are pretty. I'm picking fibers that probably don't go together, that a traditional
Right.
blender or spinner would never put it in the same thing. But I mean, it didn't matter.
Right.
I was just having fun, and people were spending them and saying they were fun. And so Kiana convinced me to get Instagram. and to like come up with a name because he's like, well, now I've got stuff just piling up. What am I gonna do with it? I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll get an Instagram and I met some people through that would give me, I would send them little test things, get different people to test out Rolex for me. Laura Lee Winchester, she was also one of my first testers, and um, we formed a friendship that way. And I was like, well, I guess maybe I should try to be a waffle vendor. And that's when I started asking about volunteering and saying I wanted to be a vendor. And you said you would mentor me. And then I thought, well, she should probably spend something I've made if she's going to mentor me. I mean, I don't really have
Yep.
any, credibility in this realm, yet. So yeah, so my first show in, was with Kiana because we're a pair, we're a set.
Right.
And I'd ask, is that possible? Because I would not have a shop. I mean, there's multiple people. There's Karen because I met her,
Right.
randomly. There's my friend who encouraged me. She's been my best friend for 50 plus years. And there's Kiana who's like, you should sell these. You should have Instagram. And I know I have so many followers that came over because we were a duo. And Laura Lee and Donna and then Riley, and I just started meeting all of the vendors, and I'm just in awe of the amount of artistry in this group. And I do have imposter syndrome, because I don't have sheep. I've never done anything. I don't want to. I don't want to wash or clean a fleece.
Yep.
You know, I just now learning to spin, but I love this. And this community, I found these are my people. Like the kindness, the the camaraderie, the vendors. This is not a competition. The vendors, all, it's like everybody when we all go up, you know,
Right.
um, vendors in their show say, "Oh yeah, I made this when I bought this from so and so," and then it's just really nice place.
It's a pretty
So
special.
my first show, yeah, was last year, Waffleversary, April. So this
Oh,
is so this is my 1 year. This is my birthday,
oh wow.
and it's so perfect because my photo of the frogs is palette of the month, and the
Right.
frogs are from a tutorial of Karen's, which is how I found out about Wafa. So it's
Awesome.
like this whole,
Awesome. I love that take on the engineering take on the blends.
yeah.
It's such an interesting way to think about it, but it really um it blows boundaries in a whole different way, right?
Yes, I mean, I measure. I'm a little bit obsessed. I don't know. You won't be able to see this probably, but I have these little sheets that I have for each one where I have vendor, material, color, and then how many ounces goes into it. And sometimes I remember to put the name of what I'm making on the top. Sometimes I don't. And if I don't enter it into my inventory management right away, I have to make some guesses.
Right?
But yes, so I am obsessed with measuring it. And what I, so in the beginning, it all had to be pattern, but I love to,
Like you had to have an inspiration kind of.
yeah, an inspiration.
Okay.
It
Uh-huh.
couldn't just be, oh, blues and greens.
Right.
It was, I'm going to make the flag. I'm going to make a watermelon. I'm going to make this fish. I'm
Right.
going to, the, the one for Kiana was based on color. It wasn't a pattern.
Well, and it- I don't know where she was in her spinning journey.
She was not brand new, but
Right.
but close to new, but not
Right.
anymore.
So you guys were learning together,
Oh yeah,
and
we were
my
having so
guess is that, I think about um those little bumps that you sent me. And
Oh
it
yeah.
was, I mean, I'm working on them for my, for my singles this month.
Oh yes.
And that little bit, I mean, you threw in the kitchen sink, but that
What I did was I went through, see my stash over there wasn't quite like that before, but I
what's
went
not
through
colored, right?
and I found pulled out everything I had that didn't have any color because I had ordered from places all the different mixes. There's one that was merino, banana,
Right.
camel,
Right.
like all like, and I like, what am I going to do with this stuff?
Right.
And I thought, oh, and so I just pulled out everything that was a natural color and put it together. And I was like, oh, I know these things don't all go together,
But
but I'm
but
going to
that
do it.
but that flax in there took me.
Yeah, that was
I
a
love
blended with something else. I didn't just bring that in on my own. It was already in one of them.
right. But blending plant fibers and protein fibers isn't people have different thoughts about that.
Oh yeah.
But I love it and I love to spin
Yeah.
it. And I was so excited that you had done that. It was like the perfect amount. I mean, really,
Yeah.
it was just lovely and your presentation was lovely. So,
And those I made on my blending board.
right.
I think that was before I had a drum carder.
Right. Well, and you really carved yourself out a niche as a roll egg maker
Yes.
before anything else. You
Yes, that's what well, when you, okay, because you can really see a pattern better when you do the roll egg than you can with a bat.
right. Yeah. Well, and the way that you did that with that like inspiration photo or whatever was your inspiration, I think made that art in a whole different way. I mean, I can have a vision about a bat, make a bat. Nobody has, like really that's I don't know, serviceberry or whatever. Nobody, but you showed us your
Well,
idea.
that's true. I would usually put the picture
Right,
there just so you could
right,
see.
right.
Well,
And
I mean, I analyzed the picture to see where I made a program for my
right,
Rolex.
right. And I would look at that and I would think, how can I spin that without making mud? But you did that. And then Kiana interpreted it in a way that was
I know.
so lovely. So, what a great combination the two of you are.
I know, and all because I'm so
Needed
glad I
a hat,
tell
right?
her all the time. I'm so glad that bat was sold out, and she
Well,
she
and
reached
you're still
out.
doing that, right? You're working with people to make custom blends, colors,
Yes.
or
So
textures.
in the beginning, I was, when I had no plan, I was just having fun making my patterns and doing everything. And I made last year, I made a lot of random things, sometimes for the palette of the month, for the theme of the month. The best is when I'm collaborating with someone, either as when Kiana and I collaborate because we want to make a set of something where I have the fiber, she gets part of the fiber, spins it, so then you can see it as yarn and fiber. Or I'm making something for someone that has meaning for them.
Right.
And so this year I decided I was going to sort of switch away from the random, kind of what fancied me, and do two different things this year. One, I want to create things that are interesting for new spinners because I'm a new spinner.
Right.
And I want to do things that are custom.
Mm-hmm.
So for the new spinner, I have a new one coming out on Saturday. So I have three little things. So one is it's also an excuse. These are an excuse to buy really gorgeous fiber from other vendors.
Yes.
And I love to use Wafa vendors in my blends. And so the first thing I call it a new spinner breed pack or
Ooh,
some. And so I take part of a braid. It's like 2 ounces total. I take the braid and I divide it into thirds, and I leave a third as the braid so you can see it just as it came. And a third I make into a bat, and a third in roll eggs. So you can take
oh,
that and you can spin the three different things. And these are single breed, but they're colorful, so they're interesting. You could want to try a different breed. Well, sometimes it's not a breed study in the true sense of a breed study, but
Yeah.
it's a fun.
Right.
And so
So
then
they're
I thought, oh, okay.
they're all single breed. There
They're
isn't
all
a blend.
single breed.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I love to find braids that are obscure, like Exmoor horn. Of course, I won't be able to think of, you know,
Somebody is sending me some Pirondale. I can hardly wait. I've never,
oh, yeah, so I find those and they're really
yeah.
colorful, it's beautiful. And so I get to support a vendor I admire. I get to have the fun of turning it into some sort of pattern of the colors, not to match an inspiration, but to do
Right.
something fun with it. And then whoever gets it gets to have a little interesting spinning because they're
Right.
just starting out. Have I ever spun one of my packs? No. I've spun like exactly three things.
That's next.
Yeah. So then the next thing was, oh, well, now I'm making small breed comparisons.
Right.
And so they're either little mini bats or rollags. And so and going forward, I might put a little more thought into it. Until now, it was just based on the fact that the colors look similar. I didn't really think about the fact that, well, maybe you don't want to, compare Cheviot to Merino. But you know what? You can when you're a new spinner, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And so I found lots of braids that sometimes it's from a vendor, it's the exact same colorway on three different
Oh,
breeds.
right. Yeah.
And so then I make the a bat of each three of the three or roll eggs of each of the three. And that's a kit somebody can buy so that they already know if they prefer bats or roll eggs, they can compare a few things. And they're fun colors, of course.
Right.
And then the newest thing I came up with is these are natural color as the base. And they're most of them are roll eggs so far because that's the most fun. And I made one roll egg or a mini bat of the single breed. And then each of the other roll eggs has a separate add-in. So you might have BFL with Angelina, BFL with
I
Firestar,
love doing
BFL
that.
with Locks, BFL with Bamboo, BFL with Silk. So so the base is the same across, and there's
Right.
one add-in in each, so you can try it. So these are the different things for new spinners.
That
And
sounds,
maybe new spinners who've never done Tour de Fleece will want these packs so they can try different things
oh, great
on
idea.
all the different days. So that's how I'm going to try to market it.
That sounds awesome.
But that's my planned things. But what I really, really, really love is the collaboration, the finding out what's meaningful to somebody and creating that for them. And so Laura Lee did a demo series with me. It was 3 weeks. The first week we talked about her inspiration photo and I asked her a bunch of questions. And then the next week we looked at the colors and decided, well, how are we going to lay it out? Are the locks going to go all the way across? This type of thing. And she would say, I never thought of all these things. Well, these are all the things that when anybody's going to make a blend, you have to think about how do you want it to go. And so might as well let the person who's going to spend it be the one to specify.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes I do things, um, maybe this will be an idea sometime that I can um, tell. But I have a friend who just recently lost her cat, um, very elderly cat. She was so distraught. And so I decided to make her a blend that looked like her cat and sent that to her. And she said she felt like she was holding him again. And I put like this little tiny bit of green silk in there for the eyes. And, so I'm not ready to put that out there yet to like, she needs to heal before I can use that as an example on my website. But that would be, if somebody my friend Donna, she has a horse. So one time I made her a blend that was the horse, so a favorite pet or, someone's, Kiana had the idea of doing blends based on bridal bouquets.
Oh,
Maybe, and so, maybe you still saw the bridal bouquet and you want to make the bride a blanket or a baby shower invite or their announcement, and you want to make a little baby cap with those colors, just to, or you have a favorite bird or
yeah.
favorite fruit. I don't know.
Or vacation photo or yeah. Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so that's what's fun is to figure out. I did one, and this was a really good, interesting custom because what I had in mind, thinking what the person wanted, was completely different than what they actually wanted. They want it was for a Baltimore Oriole. And so Kiana and Kiana for sure, she loves gradients. And so, I was thinking the different oranges and the black, but what they really wanted was something they'd seen where the oranges are all kind of marled and then you layer it with black. So the marled orange and then a layer of black and then the
Okay.
orange and black. And I would never have made that.
Yeah.
Never have entered my mind. And so when they received it, I got this message that it was exactly what they wanted and they couldn't believe it. And I was thinking, well, that's good because that was not in my head
Right.
at all. That's not what I would have done. And so maybe it would have been okay. But getting, really asking the right questions
Right.
because people are so interesting. And, I came from the engineering world where you don't really, people's feelings and things don't really go into what you
Right.
do, not too much. And
That's
so I'm discovering this sort of new part of me.
that's so exciting though, really. What an adventure. So
Yeah,
last year, I don't remember when it was, but you got a drum carter.
I did. And I got a brother drum carter
Right. And you
and
didn't
they're
really
here in
love it
Oregon.
at first, right?
Oh, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, right, because I remember I don't know if we had a conversation or if you posted, but it was kind of like, oh, I really love my
Well, yeah, because
blending
I don't
board.
know. I don't know how to make. I don't know. Okay, yes. So my
Right.
blending board, I'm really happy with my equipment because my blending board I got from an Oregon artist. He creates the wood. I'm gonna pick it up. It's a piece of art. He uses these wood scraps. Oh, the video's on. It's on portrait mode. So it doesn't, this is not a portrait. Oh, I don't really know how to do that. So anyway, it's a piece of art with this.
Right.
And
Oh, it's
he
like
does,
it's like the cutting boards that Toot makes with the inlay, huh?
yes,
Wow,
yes,
that's beautiful.
it's beautiful. And then the brush has, it comes as a set. So, the wood is just gorgeous. And he is Oregon about an hour away. And so I said, oh, I could come pick it up. He says, oh, we don't have a shop, but I'll drive halfway and meet you. It's like, no, no, no. Oh my gosh, no, that's like an hour of your time there and back. Just mail it. And then when I went to get the drum carter, I had to go with the Oregon brother drum carter. And I asked them if I could come and see the manual versus the electric. And they said, well, we don't have a shop, a store.
Really? I
They
didn't
don't
know
have a
that.
place that you just go in and shop.
Right.
But the man says, but you can come to my house and my wife will show you the two. So that's what I did.
Gabriel?
Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Gabriel's wife.
That's great.
It was awesome. Yeah. So then I strapped it in with the
So what did you end up with?
manual.
Okay.
But now I want an extra wide, large electric.
Ah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it sounds like you're making lots more bats. So you feel like you've transitioned now?
No, I like to do both, but I
Right.
found when I'm just gonna sell random, not for a specific custom,
Right.
bats, people are more attracted to bats than to Rolex that I found.
Yeah, I don't know. So for me, I took a blending board class like early on when blending boards were new and we made Rolegs and the person was very adamant that Rolegs were specifically for a long draw. I mean, there was this one thing. The blending
Oh,
board
yeah.
was for this one thing and what you got off the blend. So I had this like block in my head about what
Oh,
I
yeah.
could do with Rolegs. And then Q came and made a bunch of Rolex for me and left them for me one time, and I did. all kinds of other stuff with them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't follow any rules.
Right. Well, I thought I had the long draw, and I'm not great at that. And there's so many other things. And quite honestly, I love to teach people to spin from Rolex because there is a control in that.
Oh,
I think that you don't get when you're using roving,
yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Plus,
I love to, well, so if I'm going to make roll eggs, I do, okay. I'm an over blender. I really like to put things through like
oh,
tons
uh-huh.
of times. So every once in a while, I try to do just the layer where it's just kind of, it's a little bit chunkier textured, but I just like to use it. I just like to blend. Like my needle felting, I needle felt it till it's like hard as a rock. So I don't don't know why, but so really getting it, and now I have some customers who that's what they love it to go through. I did an online friend had a bunch of wool she'd bought, and I said I would card it for her, and I put it through 5 times because it was 3 different kinds of wool, and they just were not, yeah, you could still see chunks of the one, and she said, no, I like it when you do your really lots of blending because then I don't really have to draft. It just comes out.
Right.
And then I have people like, no, if you blend it too much, because then you blend it too much, you don't get the individual
Right.
things. And so it's based on what somebody, there's no one way that you to do anything.
Right.
Every blender can do something different, and there's going to be spinners who love the way I do it, and there's going to be spinners who do not like the way I do it.
Right.
And that's fine because there's another vendor who does it exactly the way that person does. There's
Right.
just so many options.
And that's what makes a great community because we're really, I mean, really,
Yes,
a lot of us do very similar things,
but yet not.
but yet
But
not.
just in
And
the little tiny differences.
right.
And
Right.
so when I'm going to make a complicated Rolex set, I like to do all my pre-blending using the drum carder.
So
So
tell me
let's
what
see.
you mean by a complicated
Yeah.
Rolex.
So let's say I'm gonna do what would I do? Although recently I did one that was like a Hawaiian sunset.
Okay.
So I like to take, sometimes I'm blending colors, but sometimes I want to get everything in the same format before I start. So I put the comb top or the whatever I got through the drum carder. So everything's sort of in the same consistency.
Okay.
If I'm going to overlap and do things to make the roll egg. So that the roll egg isn't like hunk smooth, you
Got
know,
it. Got
it's
it.
all, and so it's much faster to do that pre-blending on the drum card than on the blending board. I mean, the
Right.
blending board, I put like half an ounce at a time.
Right. Because you can do bigger
Yeah. And then you get
amounts.
this big piece off and then you decide what you want to do with it. And so it's kind of fun. This week I went way out of my comfort and I did one little experiment where I just went into my stash and looked for parts of braids because I use braids as like color input
Yeah. Palettes.
to
Yeah.
to make my own colors. And so I just found some that had very similar coloring. And I went to the drum carder and I kind of broke them up into sections.
Right.
And I put the braid, a section of one braid across, and then the next braid on top of it. And then one time through the drum carder,
Right.
took
Because
it up.
otherwise it's mud,
Otherwise,
right?
otherwise. And
Yeah.
so that was so freeing and kind of fun. And I thought, well, I have a lot of these little bits and bobs around. So now I've made like 9 of them for my sale of all different colors, browns and grays. They're all, one color family. And so you don't have to worry about the mud because it's all blues, all greens.
Right.
And they are big and fluffy and not at all blended. And they are really hard for me to photograph today because they kind of were falling apart and
How
they were
fun.
chunky but so that's fun.
So I'm curious. So are you dying or you're not dying?
Oh no, I'm in the middle. I don't
Okay.
want to talk to the I don't want to talk to the sheep, and I don't really want to talk to the needle,
Okay.
really.
So,
Which is interesting because in my engineering software were, that life that I used to have, I was the middle. I didn't talk to the computer chip and I didn't talk to the user. I did all the communication
okay.
stuff in between. So that's what I like to do with roll.
So I want to know because I don't, if I'm buying roving, I'm buying it, you know, white or gray or brown, and then I'm dyeing it.
Oh yeah.
So are you buying in a variety of like oranges and a variety of blues? How are you
Oh,
getting that?
oh.
It's a technical question, but I'm just curious about
Yeah.
how that works.
So back here, what's a really good what's your favorite color?
Gray,
Yeah, okay.
but pick something because that's okay.
Okay, so for
I don't
all the
usually
different
say that out loud.
colors, I have two bins. I have the bin with the color, so these are grays.
Okay.
Then I have one that's I call them semi-solids that I can use. So
Okay.
I just get all kinds of things. So a
So
lot
all
of
kinds
them
of
are,
colors in all kinds of different breeds?
well, yes, yes and no. Up in the beginning, what you can find the most of just the solid color
Merino, right?
commercial is merino.
Yeah, right.
And so almost everything I had in the beginning was merino.
Okay.
And that's not what everybody wants. And so
Really?
I've started to get, but I've got like I just get all the you can't see it very well because I'm on portrait mode. But these are the solids. But I started paying attention to get solids and some Corriedale. And then I was at a fiber festival and I got some Cormo that was all single color solid
Oh.
dye. And then I from Leaf Livestock, I just got a bunch of different colors of polypay.
So do you blend white and black to create a gradient, or you're using the color that it comes? I
Oh,
don't know. And you can tell
everything.
me if if these are
No,
trade secrets
sometimes
that aren't
I
my
have,
business.
oh no, I mean, okay. Sometimes I have 20 different things in a blend because I have five different grays that I want to put together. And
Right,
then I want to, oh, I want this one color. I don't have it.
right.
So I
Do
mix
you
it and
make
I
it?
make it.
Okay.
I
All
make
right.
it by not by dyeing, but by
By
blending
blending.
the colors.
Oh, fascinating.
Oh, and then I wanted to show you one other thing. So Kiana and I, we would collaborate on a bunch of things, and she would send me a picture, and I would make what I thought was the picture, and then she would get it, and it wouldn't quite be. Well, that's because our screens weren't showing the
Oh,
colors the same.
oh.
And she'd say that looks a little bit too bright. And I was like, well, it's identical to the like I am
Right.
holding it up to it. It's
On
identical.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Huh.
so we bought this thing that's a color
I've
deck.
been thinking about that one.
So then she would go through, and she would have her idea. And so then that's backwards for you, but the backs of the cards have numbers. So then
Yeah.
she would lay it out and send me a picture of the front and of the back. So I knew when she meant fuchsia, she meant 16F, not
Right.
16E, you
You
know.
got it. Uh-huh.
And so then so a lot of times for when we did the whole series on the places have memories,
Yeah.
those were all places that had special meaning, things about the place that had special meaning for Kiana.
For her.
So the
Right. Yeah.
colors really needed to, I mean, she had a specific color in mind.
Right.
And so, making a Hawaiian sunset, okay, well, this orange or this orange, maybe that's okay. But I had to get, I mean, I didn't have to, but I really wanted to
That's a great idea.
get the color. So
Seriously, I've
we,
been looking at it and trying to decide if I want
yeah.
it or not.
So,
So
and this one, it's awesome.
do you think about the color wheel when you
No, but you'd think I
okay.
would because
Uh,
of the whole engineering thing. But I'd have
right,
to stop blending to learn.
right. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to like put it through and see what happens a little bit at a time.
Oh yeah, I mean there have been times when I put it through and thought, oh no,
Right.
this is not the no, this is not going to work. This is going to be, yeah, this is going to be grosser than mud. And sometimes like, well, let's just try it. And there were a few, there were a few interpretations of the places that didn't really turn out, some of the first attempts, and we would just laugh. It's like, yeah, maybe not that. Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I wanna make sure that we get to you telling us where you're gonna be and all your social media and stuff. But there was I know. There was one last thing that I really wanted to ask you. So now that you are a spinner,
Um, let's just say now that, yes,
let's
now that I have a e-spinner
right.
and um
And you are on that journey, has
I'm
that
on,
informed or
no,
changed how you make things?
no,
Not yet.
because I don't practice, because I need an audience or an accountability somebody.
Oh, see? Why do you think I'm spinning through this book with a bunch of people?
And so have I started spinning for that journey? No, because there's a sale on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I'm a
Okay,
little bit of a
I was just
procrastinator.
curious about, whether that
No, it should. And I should, and I do plan to do Tour de Fleece this year. I want to have a team of new spinners, and I want to try the products that I'm creating.
it's hard to have time,
Well, I mean, I do have time. I'm an empty nester.
right?
I do my wool, and I'm a volunteer. I do volunteer data projects for nonprofits, and so I'm better when I have a little bit more to do than when I have too much free time.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to stop us here. I want you to tell us where you're going to be if you have, I mean, your Wafa show, any other shows, where we can find you on social media, and then we'll come back and we'll open it up for questions.
Okay. So my Wafa show is on Saturday at 6 Eastern,
Okay.
and it might be my first solo show. I'm going to sell, if Kiana can't be there, this has been a really crazy semester, so she did not have time to make a lot of new things, but I have to have some Kiana yarn in my show. So she's going to let me sell a few things,
Okay.
and she might be there. But there will be a little bit of yarn.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Marie Feathers Fiber Crafts. And I have a website that I don't promote. So I'm not much of a businesswoman. I just need to figure that out. I have a hard time. I just want, not that I want to give it all away, but I don't know. I think it's the imposter syndrome, worried about charging,
Right.
but I at least need to charge to get the money back from the materials that went
So
in.
you can
And
buy more fun stuff.
and I want to support people that that I admire and that have ethics, and it's not super cheap. And so, already the ingredients are high quality, the cost is going to go up.
Right.
But that was a total digression. But my website is mariefeathers.com.
Okay.
I took off and Marie Feathers, my middle name is Marie.
Right.
And for some bizarre reason, my best friend's family started calling me Marie instead of Jean. I've known them. My mom was in their wedding. Like we grew up. And then when her younger sister was in middle school, she decided she was going to create a slang word, and she said feathery. And when things are feathery, they're cool. So one day she said Marie is feathery, and then I became Marie Feathers. And I realized that was 40 years ago. So that's my nickname in that family only. And then it was sometimes shortened to MF, which maybe we won't do anymore.
Right.
But it had no connotation at the time. So,
Now it's a business.
and now it's a business, yes, but I'm not going to abbreviate.
Got it. All right. So I would love to open up for people to ask you questions.
It's okay to have no questions too. So Laura Lee and Cheryl, when I did my little demo series, learning how to spin, they were my tutors.
Well, you are too kind, Jean. I'm going to go ahead and jump in if y'all can hear me. But I wanted to say that I've enjoyed watching your journey, what I feel from the very beginning, and when you were looking for a quote unquote fiber friend way back when with the Tour de Fleece, and I've enjoyed watching you and working. Working through some of your bats and some of your Rolags and some of your wonderful things that you've created. So it's good to see from whence you've come from the beginning and where you are now.
Yeah.
So not a question, but just a statement.
Oh, wonderful.
Laura Lee is definitely my fiber friend.
I'm your cheerleader. I
Yeah, I
always will
helped her
be.
learn how to needle felt, and she helped me
Yes,
learn on a drop spindle. We did it over Google Meet.
Wonderful.
it was so much fun.
Yeah,
All right. Anyone else?
I pretty much didn't stop talking for her, and now I don't know what other question there would be.
I love that though.
Well,
As we
I,
read
I, I
them,
think
go ahead.
I think I might have a question for you because another one of your crafts, of course, is needle felting. And so, have you thought about putting? And you may already have, and I just haven't seen it. Is putting together things for specifically needle felting, opposed to just spinners and or maybe even wet felters or something of that.
Not really, because well, okay. So one time I did on Instagram, I did a demo. No, not demo, a giveaway. And the person who won the giveaway had really wanted the yarn of Kiana's,
Uh,
but won the fiber portion. And I learned that while she crochets, she doesn't spin, but she needle felt. So I created her a blend with needle felt fiber instead of, I mean, some can be used for both, but some that, not merino combed top for that. And she loved it. But no, not it's a good it's an idea, but uh I don't really know. I think with wet felting, you really have to do lots of the inter with and
right, right.
so the answer is no. I didn't really
Okay, fair,
I did it for
fair
the one
enough.
lady. I had thought about, I made her a little pack that was like some that was sand and some that was the ocean, that, but maybe it didn't have enough of a pattern and it wasn't in a roll ag. I don't know.
You gotcha, gotcha. And you know that I love your Rolags. Those are my favorite blends of yours and Rolags. So those are
Yeah, and
indeed my favorite.
I love to make those. And so
Hmm.
which is why a lot of my add-in packs are roll eggs because he makes just really separates. So I would make roll eggs only probably because you really see the pattern.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just spins up very different. I mean, color wise, it just
Oh,
really,
true. You get the smaller pieces and a little bit more defined
right.
if it pulls out the way that it's rolled.
Right.
I had one tester, another Instagram friend, um, who really gave me the most honest, great feedback. These were some because I had some Rolex that I'd made like over a year ago, and I was like, I don't know if I can sell these. Like, when they hang around for that long, and never mind the fact that that was in the beginning of my journey. And so I sent like, what do you think? These have been around, honest. And yeah, they're fine from the point of view, they didn't get trampled or anything. But the Roleg was really tricky because you have all these different um staple links in there. I was like, oh yes, I did. In the beginning, I had every different kind of thing in there. And so like just really have to pay attention, but it's interesting. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's great. Someone who'd never spun something with all the different with all my kitchen sink in there.
Right.
So
And that would draft and then spin differently the different links than a
if you
bat
don't pull it all out at the same
than a
time.
bat would, right? Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I hadn't
Yeah.
thought of that.
So
Oh,
yeah, so that's what I mean, I'd love to learn. I don't always stop and learn exactly what I need to, but I like input from people who use what I make.
yeah.
I really do.
Oh, now I have to think about that. I haven't used my blending board for a while.
Yeah.
All right. What else do you want to share with us in the last 7 minutes?
Um, gosh, I don't know. Uh,
What is you talked a little bit about those two things that you're really working on this year. Are there other things on the horizon for you? Are you thinking about in-person shows? Are you
well, I did one in-person show a year ago, February, and it was great. It was a spin in on the coast that my friend Donna was in, and she's like, and you have to have a booth, you pay $5 to get in. Like it was no cost. And I did a little fangirling because right across from me was Alexandra, the Art of Yarn. I don't know if you've seen any of her
yeah.
her things. Um, and so that was kind of fun. And she came over and she's like, I found some things I wanted. She's like, let's do a trade. Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. But there were it was fun. Did I sell some stuff? Yes. But the way I'd packaged things to put on a roll eggs and whatnot to put on display, I had them in like donut boxes.
Yeah.
But that is not a good way to store them in your
Oh,
house.
right.
And so they take up so much space. So, and because I don't have a studio, I'm in my house. I keep everything in plastic bags to keep, I have a lot of plastic. Would I rather not have that much plastic? Yes, but I'm not going to hang those chemicals for the moths eh, in my room, in my,
Right.
in my kid's bedroom that I've taken over while he's in college. I just can't use those chemicals. So I have way too much plastic. And so then to go to a show, I would want to put them back in a nice display.
Right.
And that just overwhelmed me. I was going to do that again. I was like, I just can't. And then drive 3 hours to the coast. I just couldn't do it. So I should do it. I did go to a local show recently. It's on way on the other side of town. And I want to start going to the guild. It's run by a guild. So I want to go to those meetings and meet people who teach spinning because maybe that can help me come up with other new things
Yeah.
to make and have an outlet for it.
Right.
But they're at night and I don't drive in the dark anymore. Oh, I just really don't want to drive in the dark and I'm not going to ask my husband, oh, can you drive me 40 minutes and hang out in the car while I
Right.
go?
Right.
So I really hope they have meetings this summer when it's not dark and I
Yeah.
can drive. I'm feeling old.
Can I venture and ask something? Is that I know that you are, attempting to do some spinning on a, drop spindle and a electric spinner and stuff like that. And I may have asked you this one time before, but I can't remember. Are you thinking about venturing out and doing some weaving as well, or
Oh,
what do
thank
you
you for
think?
asking that. Yes, because I have a toot loom
Oh,
that I've
oh,
never used.
okay,
Because I just keep blending.
yes. And so that's going to be added to your repertoire of things that you're going
Not
to get to
not to
do.
yeah, not to sell, but to
Yeah.
yeah, I want to make some like bookmarks or coast. What I want to make are like some little coasters because so my husband's parents are from Peru. They grew up in Peru. And when we go to Peru, the textiles that you
Yes.
find are just and so in these markets, the Inca market in Lima, I found these tapestries that were like the size of a coaster. and they would have some of the tradition. Sometimes they just have color. Sometimes they have a traditional Inca sign or maybe even pre-Inca sign. And so I would buy those, and I probably bought hundreds of those over the years to give to my kids' teachers and everything. But now, what if I could make those
Oh yeah.
with and find the patterns that have meaning to Peruvian cult, whichever culture I choose. And so, and I don't have it with me right here, but for Christmas, my mother-in-law bought me a purse at the Cusco Textile Center, where I mean, it was so somebody had hand woven this gorgeous, and they made it into a purse. And so, yeah, so that's kind of a fun, that's it's the way that I can connect to that, to the textiles,
So another
and
craft.
oh, yes, Emily.
Um, just following up on that, I collect little change purses that are
Oh,
about this big or that big. And when I have one that's from Peru, and it's an image of a rabbit
oh,
on the side of it, and but it's very modernistic, almost abstract. It's really cool the way it was done. And
a lot of the things are more like a line drawing or a
mhm.
block animal as opposed to a realistic.
But also, I wanted to go back to your needle felting. Um, my granddaughters have learned to needle felt. We started with a different vendor, and she sent I bought for them a snowman kit,
Oh yeah.
and they said, no, we don't want to do that. And then I signed up for signed up for a needle felting Facebook page, and all of a sudden were these ones where they did used hoops, and I
So more
just
of a
used
painting. So more needle felt painting.
painting, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I went to the Goodwill, and they had them all hooked together. Was these like 12 different size hoops, and so I just used a cotton cloth. It was a
Right.
heavyweight cotton cloth. It was kind of like a flannel. Anyway, so I did that, and I showed them how to do the pinking shears around to make it look so nice, the stuff sticking out, looking nice. They loved that. And then at one of my guild meetings, somebody was giving away a bin of all different colors, just little bits of this, bits of that.
Oh
I
yeah.
grabbed it,
Oh, of
and they
course.
love that. They love going through it. And so I said, what do you want to do? And I showed them the website of the gal who had the kits. And they said, oh, we want to do gnomes. Well, I get the gnome kits. They didn't like the colors. They wanted their gnomes to have bright pink noses,
Oh
and
yeah.
they wanted them to have purple hats. It was a Christmas thing with red and green hats, right? Purple hats. And so for this year, I took them over to Wine and Woolly. Turns out to be almost in my backyard. I had never
Oh,
realized she was that close. Took them over there, and I said, okay, your Easter present is each to pick out a braid. And Molly knew which ones to point them to for felting, which ones would be best for felting.
oh,
So they
awesome.
each now had this big 4-ounce braid to work from. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And they said, oh, we want to do fantasy animals.
Oh wow.
That's so cool.
So if you could, I mean, think about kids.
Right.
And so, you know, if you want to do kits or something like that, go for that market, because us grandmas really need direction.
I love
you
that.
know, you know. And so that I've got all these colors now. I still have that bin of colors, and but they're little bits. And one is orange and greens
Oh,
roving. It's just awful. But they're thinking, oh, that'll be the back of my serpent, or the wings.
oh, right. That's so
They're gonna
cool.
do wings, and so Grandma's gonna get creative here about how to do the wire structure on the
The
inside.
armatures,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So, but
I'm not so fantastic with the wire structure, but
anyway, but I may have become fantastic. I don't know. Anyway, so think about that market.
yeah.
Fantasy colors. My 12-year-old is really into the galaxy and anything to do with planets and
Oh yeah. I've
stars.
seen some I've seen some vendors, some
But to
blenders
put
do,
together a kit with the colors,
or like a
with the
nebula,
colors, and
or
then and the from a grandma's point of view, to get the, I don't know where you buy it, but get the where the little leather finger covers,
oh yeah, I color
because
my
when
fingers.
grandma goes to help them, she gets stabbed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
I need the little finger covers. Anyway,
Mhm.
so I went to a gal who sells here up at Port Angeles, and she has a shop there, and she had a felting kit that had a block the foam, but it had the
oh yeah,
finger covers.
yeah,
But so and the needles is 4 needles in one pack. You know, we
yep.
do 4 at once. For kids, that's really great because it's got a handle,
Oh
and
yeah.
so
Right.
but to put together fantasy kits and fantasy colors and
Might make some fantasy bats.
Well, and that makes me think, so when I make my skeins, I usually have a little bit of yarn left and those become grab bags.
yeah,
If
I got
you
some.
had
I bought them from
little,
you.
if you had little bits of color,
Oh yeah.
just
Well, I did have little bits of things from my beginning where, it was like
right?
all those little kinds of things I made in the beginning with Kiana, and I put them together as mystery. I called them take a chance, like
Yeah.
themes, and I one just came. I just had somebody buy one, and they're greatly discounted right now because they
Those
went to
would be the perfect little bags for,
yeah.
because, people don't want to
But I
buy.
wouldn't have really done anything to them. It would be me. It would just be like scraps that I'd bought from people.
I know,
Well,
but you can still package it up as a
yeah,
kit.
but how perfect would that little grab bag be for a felter looking for some color?
That's
I
true.
don't know. Anyway, things to think about.
When my girls did the first ones, the younger daughter, the younger granddaughter, she did a picture of Mount Rainier, and for us, and she was working off a photograph, and for us to find the right colors for like the rocks, and we had the blues and everything for the mountain and the lake in front, but there was certain colors we just didn't have, and I said, just we'll use something else and it'll be okay, and it was. And the older one, once again, Ms. Universe, wanted to do a pink parrot. And so she wanted shades of pink to show like shadow under the wing. She wanted under the wing, and it was like, oh, where am I gonna get all this?
They're
She's
really
gonna
into
get to
this.
look. She's gonna get to learn how to use hand cards to do some blending.
Yeah, well, I've got that too, but yeah.
Yeah, so she can do. So I know we're out of time.
Okay.
I want to say
Thank you.
thank you. You
Thank you,
know,
Jean. This was so
this
much.
was so much fun
Yeah,
and
this is
ideas. And any ideas you have, just message me. See what I'll pick your brain about the grandkid kits.
yeah.
I know Karen has some kits, and I know a couple places that have some really really good kits for kids too. So
All right. Thank you guys
yeah.
so much for joining us. Thank you, Jean.
Thank
This was so
you.
much fun. All
Okay.
right. You guys
Bye.
have a good rest of the week. Bye.